Hey everyone, welcome to CineScarf. This is our 4th Doctor retrospective on CineHell. I'm Joey Har.
I'm Janice Rivera.
And today we're going to be talking about Tom Baker again.
We recorded CineScarf a while ago, but due to some technical difficulties, it was pretty glitchy and we couldn't do it, so we went ahead and did our Halloween retrospective on Who, which I, for some reason, can't recall the name of. Oh, Haunted Who.
Haunted Who, yeah.
So now we are going back to redo CineScarf and talk about the 4th Doctor and his crazy outfits and his wild hair and his iconic scarf.
Yes, and his outfits are a little weird, but they're... Oh, just wait for Colin Baker.
Colin Baker, wait for Sylvester McCoy. Although, you're right, Colin...
I could rock those question marks, I think.
I was about to say, although you have me beat, Colin Baker's colorful attire does kind of take the cake for flamboyant.
Although, you know, everybody hates on that outfit. They hate on it. Not a big deal for me. I watch it and I actually enjoy it.
It was the 80s.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the 80s. This is not the weirdest thing you will see on TV that day.
Well, I'm not saying it's horrible by any means. I'm just saying it was kind of a stark contrast because up until that point, most of the Doctors had very neutral colored, very dark colored clothing. Even Tom Baker with his multicolored scarf, it was still fairly dark. And then here...
Oh, the Magnificent.
That was the 3rd Doctor.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Oh, I love Doctor the Magnificent with his cape.
That's a pretty awesome outfit.
And then you have, the 5th Doctor with his bright colors and patterns, and it was a pretty big jump.
I like his floppy hat. I know that's weird, but that's my favorite thing about his outfit. Isn't the great big scarf that he uses for anything and everything? I like his floppy hat.
Well, it is an awesome hat.
It is an awesome hat. All right, so we were talking before the show, and news-wise, there's not much to say. We did cover stuff on our failed attempt earlier, and then promptly forgot what the stuff was, so I'm deeming it not important news.
Oh, we are about 2 weeks away, a little over 2 weeks away from the 50th anniversary, so that's pretty exciting. Again, if you want to go, there's going to be a simulcast on Saturday at your local theater. If not, there's going to be a replay on Monday. Check your, Fandango for all that information.
Check your local listings.
Does anyone do that anymore? Like, check their local listings? Or does everyone just do,
I haven't seen a TV guide anywhere.
Because it's online. I have my TV guide saved. But the only thing new is they've said, if you pre-ordered the Doctor Who DVD, here's some of the extras, and basically there's nothing exciting to announce in the Who universe, the Whoniverse.
Yeah, unfortunately. And as far as movies in general, there's not a huge lot. Heard a few rumblings about Ghostbusters 3, and I heard a few rumblings about Star Wars TV show, Star Wars Rebel, with a couple more trailer bits, and little bits and bobs here and there, but nothing really concrete, nothing all that exciting. And most of the stuff I've been reading on the movie news blogs and websites and stuff has been like who we'd want to see as the villain in Doctor Who, and who we'd want to see as the next Jedi in Star Wars, and what kind of dinosaur would I like to ride. Not good reporting, really. Nobody's stealing any scripts lately.
Yeah, I don't really have anything. The only thing is I saw Ender's Game this weekend. I personally wasn't impressed, but I'm not a huge sci-fi fan. So for me, it was just like, okay, let's just watch the same thing over and over and over, and then blah, 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 war games, blah, 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 it's over.
So. By such a nice writer. I mean, really.
Yeah, you never know when I'd studied English and creative writing by that description.
Yeah, he's... and yeah, I read
Orson
Ender's
Scott
Game.
Card himself, there's a lot of controversy surrounding him, saying, his political views, he's very homophobic, he's very a misogynist. There's a lot of
He doesn't consider himself homophobic or misogynist. He believes that the rest of us are overreacting.
No, you're pretty much a jerk, so...
Yeah. And the weird thing is, I would never have guessed that based on Ender's Game, which is the start of a series which supposedly is about, acceptance and understanding of people's differences. Featuring a psychopathic child. But...
with violent tendencies.
Well...
Although I have to admit, the most awkward thing about the movie was... he's taking a shower and he gets attacked in the shower, and there's 2 teenage boys fighting in the shower, and one of them has a towel on. And all I could think is, don't make a drop the soap joke. And then, of course, I made a drop the soap joke.
I was going to say, it bothers you that he has a towel? Like, that doesn't make sense. You wouldn't be wearing a towel. You're taking a shower.
No, he stepped away from the water, and I'm not gonna spoil it for you. There's a lot of stuff going on.
That's okay. I'm not worried about shower scene spoilers. I think I'll survive.
But visually it's actually pretty cool. Plot-wise...
the shower scene?
No, not the shower scene.
Sorry.
But just overall, like the CGI and the war game stuff, it was pretty cool. But for a lot of it, I was just like, I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to go home.
Oh, isn't Harrison Ford in that?
I did not like Harrison Ford in this. I did not finish Ender's Game because I was bored.
The book, not the movie, right?
The book. I sat through Ender's Game because, I paid $8 for that. Of course, I'm going to sit through it. And Harrison Ford was just stiff, wooden, callous.
Well, to be fair, I think that's the character he's playing, isn't it?
Yeah. But I wasn't too terribly... He just kind of bored me, like, oh, he's talking, I can tune him out.
Yeah, it's true. Alright, and since that's all we've got really to talk about as far as new stuff, let's talk about things that happened in the 70s.
And 80s.
Yeah, and into the 80s. God, Tom Baker, man, he had a long run on Doctor Who.
TARDIS does that to you.
Most of which I've seen. I'm very happy to have found all of these wonderful, legitimate websites. Certainly no illegal streaming at all.
Well, we do have Netflix, and I have Amazon Prime, so...
Yes, and between Amazon Prime and Netflix, I was able to watch the entire, The Key to Time story arc with Romana, and I got to watch a lot of episodes of Leela. Leela's one of my favorite characters, so that was awesome. I even bought a copy of The Talons of Wang Chiang. So... I've had a chance to watch a lot of his stuff and really, really enjoy his era, especially once we move into kind of the more comedic stuff that he does. Oddly enough, all the episodes we're watching aren't really comedy heavy.
No, they're actually quite serious and very somber.
Yeah. I think the most comedic one is going to be the first one that we watched, which is Robot.
I don't think that was intentionally funny.
Well, some of the dialogue was.
But overall, I don't think it was meant to be intentionally funny. There was just times where I could not help but laugh at the ridiculousness.
Okay, I have to say this. I don't care how far back in history you go, in the history of filmmaking, no one has ever put together a robot that looked like that and gone, this is going to be a terrifying monster. I am a genius at prop making. They put that together and went, dude, I've got the munchies so bad.
And then the fact that it was obvious when it was on green screen and when it was real was... It was just... The thing that made it, incredibly average and, non-threatening was the fact that I guess they gave it, a conscience. So sometimes I'd be like, I must kill all humans, and then it was like, no, I must not
like,
kill the humans, but I must kill the humans, so it's...
Humanity is a plague, Sarah Jane, but I like humans and puppies.
So it was like this robot is having a conflict with himself the whole time.
Return to start, error. Return to start.
Yes, so...
Yeah, bad programming on that robot's part. The remote-controlled tank. Oh, come on.
That we weren't...
Nobody... Yeah, you're not supposed to know this is an RC tank. It's supposed to be a full-size tank. But it has the RC antenna with a little bobble on the end sticking off. It's an obvious RC tank, and nobody's willing to admit it. Nobody really thought maybe we should just show old footage of a tank.
Well, keep in mind production values then are not what they are now, so they were working...
It's the 1970s. Show Vietnam War era footage. I don't care if you're rolling in a jungle. Cardiff substitutes for every place in the world. I would not be surprised if Cardiff has a jungle.
It was a budget issue when they couldn't, get the rights for such films. So they're like, hey, my son has this remote control tank. Let's just use that.
God.
I don't know why I'm trying to make this logical.
I really think they did it just so that they could show the robot and the tank on screen without having to do any special effects, because all they did was drop the tank onto a table and remote control the tank to drive up and down on the table while the robot is sat on the grass in the distance.
Pretty much.
Filmed at the right angle, it doesn't look at all like that's a real-size tank fighting a real-size robot. Not in the least. I mean, it totally does. Perfect. Cut it. Print it.
Exactly.
We'll make millions. So that was also Tom Baker's arrival, which is kind of a weird arrival. The magic dude sitting on the desk and saying, I have made it possible for him to regenerate.
Yeah.
Isn't it awesome? Then he pops up. It introduces Tom Baker and a new companion. What was his name?
Was it
Harry Sullivan.
Harry Sullivan. Harry Sullivan is an imbecile.
My favorite line.
Harry Sullivan is an imbecile!
And
he yells that quite a bit.
People are going to be really confused because there's not that many people who remember Harry, even among Who fans. But Harry Sullivan, who's kind of a incompetent... He's a competent surgeon. He's a doctor, and he's a competent surgeon and medico. But as a companion, he's kind of shit.
He kind of screws up a lot.
A lot. And the only thing that really makes it better is that Sarah Jane's along to fix it when he breaks stuff.
Although, I gotta admit, I like Sarah Jane. I think she's great. Her one problem is she just gets herself into the dumbest situations possible.
Come back here, Lois Lane.
I understand you're curious, I understand you want the facts, but do you really have to go that far to get the information? She basically breaks into a military base. For information.
In Robot, she's breaking into an area like British Area 51. She's breaking into like this top secret robotic research base.
Yes.
Which is apparently run by
the worst guards ever.
Well, I was thinking the people running it.
Oh, there weren't any guards.
There weren't any guards. No, the people running it though were that like neo-Nazi British cult. I love it when Doctor Who introduces British Nazis. That's the funnest thing in the world for me, because they're never Nazis. They're never exactly Nazis. Like, we can't really say Nazi. We don't want to offend somebody.
Everything about the uniform and their mannerisms kind of just screams, I'm a Nazi! I sounded a little too enthusiastic about that, but...
Oh my god, I just have a great image of somebody running down the street screaming, I'm a Nazi!
That woman probably did, the head woman of the whole thing.
Yeah, she seemed the type. And it's not the first time we've seen these weird, like, end-of-days cults in Doctor Who, but this is probably one of the lamest. This is right up there with when the Third Doctor fought a bunch of plastic dinosaurs.
Ah, the dinosaurs.
Yeah, not quite Dinosaur on the Spaceship right there. I mean, it made Dinosaur on the Spaceship look amazing. But that was Robots. Thoughts on Robot? What do you think? Worth watching,
but like I said, it's unintentionally hilarious.
Mm-hmm. In places, and there are a couple of spots where it drags.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for an introductory episode, it's not amazing.
And I do like at the very beginning when he's just regenerated. He's still got the Doctoro the Magnificent's clothing on, which that is what I am calling Pertwee. So he opens the TARDIS and he goes in and out. He does several costume changes, and like one of them's a Viking, and it's funny, it's silly.
I love that little interaction when he says the Viking. I really like that interaction where he comes out, bops out just dressed as a Viking. Like, hey, let's do this. I got me a spear. I got me a shield. I got a horned helm.
This is totally normal.
And he just rolls out into Unit HQ dressed like that, and everybody in Unit's looking at him like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, what? Humans dress like this, right? Like, he can't comprehend that human fashion may have changed.
Well, then again, he didn't really have one as his third regeneration, considering he dressed like the magician the whole time.
All humans dress as magicians.
With velvet suits, with lacy sleeves, and a cape.
They make him feel pretty.
But let's never go into that again.
Anyways, yeah, it's a really good regeneration. As far as regenerations go, this is probably one of the most entertaining ones that I've ever seen. Now, I haven't seen the Fifth Doctor's. I've seen I've seen every other regeneration, except the regeneration into Davison. So I'm looking forward to that because that's what we're watching after this podcast. Yay! But let's not get there yet. Let's move on to our in
Genesis
the middle
of the
episode.
Daleks.
Yes, and there's so many other episodes we could have watched. So many really good episodes, but this is the first shot of the Time War, right?
Yep.
So we gotta watch it. So we sat down and watched Genesis, and it was amazing.
Good. It was very dark, not in the visual sense, but in it's about war and genocide and radiation, or what is the word, like biochemical warfare. It was not nice stuff. And there's Davros and the Khaleds and the Daleks, and it's just very, like, if you don't like things that are mildly depressing or that can be a little bit heavy, you probably will not like Genesis of the Daleks.
And spoiler warning for anybody who hasn't watched this 40-year-old episode.
Not much of a spoiler.
But it's pretty old. Yeah, at this point it's not much of a spoiler because there's been enough. The big fight is between the people who become the Daleks, who are called Khaleds, and the Thal. And the Thals are not the ones that we get to know in other Doctor Who. Like, prior to this, you see the second Doctor, the first Doctor, and the third Doctor all have different times when they meet up with Thals to fight the Daleks, and they're all buddy-buddy. They're like, hey, Thals, no... this is how Doctoro the Magnificent described them as... I'm sorry, the third Doctor. I'm sure we're making some third Doctor fan very angry.
Prove us wrong that he doesn't look like a magician.
Well, maybe he's just upset because the seventh Doctor is the big magician. He likes to do magic tricks.
And he's got that sweet umbrella.
But nope. We're not there yet. So first, as Pertwee, Doctor, explained it, he says that the Halls are known throughout the galaxies as as a force of peace and art, and political discourse. Like all the good things about society, the perfect society. And then we see them in Genesis, and their origins is really dark, where they're making super weapons to destroy their enemies.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, they're doing it for peace, but it's, it's mad. It's mutually assured
Still,
destruction kind of
using
peace.
violence as a means to the end is not, the best idea.
Unless it's a child molester. Then violence is the answer.
But it shows how, I want to say, it's how the Daleks basically became evil. Because they were started off as, again, a means to an end, and then it turns out they kind of go a little megalomaniac, or at least Davros does, hardcore. And it's like, we must kill everybody and wipe out everyone who is against us, and pretty much, well, if you are against them, you get killed.
If you're not with me, you're against me.
Pretty much.
If you are with me, I'll still kill you because I'm Davros, bitch. Yeah. I actually kind of like that about Davros. I love that little spiel he does with the Fourth Doctor.
It is an interesting conjecture.
Would you do it?
The only living thing, a microscopic organism, reigning supreme. A fascinating idea.
But would you do it?
Yes. Yes. To hold in my hand a capsule that contained such power. To know that life and death on such a scale was my choice. To know that the tiny pressure on my thumb, enough to break the glass, would end everything. Yes. I would do it. That power would set me up above the gods. And through the Daleks, I shall have that power!
He's a very scary villain.
He doesn't look scary, but his mentality is quite frightening.
Well, I guess, it depends. If you're the kind of person who gets really freaked out by weird, creepy faces...
You'll be scared of Davros.
Yeah, Davros is creepy. No eyes. That's creepy. The empty eye sockets.
I didn't like that there's, multiple tubes going into his head and the back of his head, and...
Yeah, I like his little cart.
There's just something unsettling about the whole half-man, half-Dalek thing.
Especially when everybody else... This kind of makes me think of Marvel Comics in a way, because it's like, here's a society which ostracizes any member of their society which is in any way different in mutation-wise. They call them mutos, and they kick them out. No X-Men on Skaro, but they still accept Davros despite his horrible apparently self-imposed mutilations. Like everybody else, all these mutos who really don't look all that bad, all things considered,
No, they
are
don't.
kicked out for being different. But Davros has a third eye in the middle of his forehead, but it's the only one because he took out the other two. And he's all shriveled.
Because it was the style.
Well, yeah, he was a rebellious youth, part of the Cyclops gang.
Oh yes, that's a very dangerous game.
Them and the Triads. So.
Oh, the Triads.
So, we see the Doctor being sent by the Time Lords, and this is the first time we've seen the Time Lords in a while. We see the Doctor get sent by the Time Lords to stop the Daleks, because I guess the Time Lords finally got fed up with the crap the Daleks were pulling,
Which you would think they'd have gotten sick of that a lot sooner.
They just sort of dropped their... At some point, the Time Lords went from being the "we will never interfere" people to being the "we will never interfere unless it's Daleks. Then we will interfere a lot."
Pretty much.
Also, sometimes other things. Basically, anytime it's a time traveler involved, the Time Lords are like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna mess the hell out of him." But they don't want to get involved in static events, I guess. I don't know. It's a little confusing. But anyways, they send the Doctor against his will. They use a transmat beam that they have sent through the time vortex. So instead of transmatting back to Earth, they transmat him to ancient Skaro, where Society of Thals, which has been reduced to a single remaining dome on one side of a trench-filled battlefield, and the Khaleds, who have been reduced to a dome on the other side of the same trench-filled battlefield. And they're basically trying to destroy each other's domes. Big tower defense game going on. and it's really dark. I love the imagery. I love the soldiers who are outfitted with a mixture of technologies from the space age stuff that the people of Skaro should have had, all the way down to like bows and arrows and muskets and old beaten metal armor, because they run out.
It's mildly reminiscent of World War II.
It is, yeah, and it's obviously intended to bring up memories of the Great War too, World War I and II, where you're seeing, the trench warfare and the bodies being used to mimic life, like they're
oh yeah, it's
holding bodies up against the trench wall to make it look like the trenches are full, so that nobody will attack it. And they're doing it on both sides. You see the Thals are doing the same thing as the Khaleds that way.
Yeah, it's dark, it's kind of heavy, it's a good setup, but again, if you really don't like the heavy, intense thing, you're probably going to want to skip over this.
Unless you're really, really into Daleks.
Yes.
If you want the whole Dalek story, this is the one to go to, because this is the genesis of the Daleks. It's exactly what it says on the tin. You put this movie in, or this episode in, and you're gonna see how the Daleks came to be, and you're gonna see where Davros came from. Because prior to this episode, Davros is never heard of. This episode introduces him as a force to be reckoned with for the Doctor. So I personally would say watch it. It's a really good episode as far as acting is concerned. Everybody's a good actor. Even the bit players, you really get invested in that Thal chick.
Who kind of looks like a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, but you really get invested in her cause, where she's really trying to rebuild society on Skaro after this horrible war. Spoilers. And and it's like, even like I said, like the bit players are really engaging, and that you don't get that a lot, especially in Doctor Who. Think back to the War Games, which is my favorite episode of all time, and you're seeing these ridiculous guys dressed up in ill-fitting armor from various eras. The Roman Legion needs to cut back on the chocolates, but it's not like that. This episode, Genesis, it feels like they pulled out all the stops. They really wanted to set something up with Genesis, and it came across that way. I don't know if they really intended it to be that important, but they just did a really good job with it.
I thought it was a wonderful portrayal. I would also say watch it. I'm not a huge fan of the wartime stuff, but I was genuinely interested in it. The Daleks and the Khalids and the Thals and the use of chemical warfare and Sarah Jane's part and the Doctor's part, and I kind of got swept up in are they going to make it out okay, is this going to have a good ending, and I got emotionally invested, so I was like, I have to see the whole thing now.
Yeah, and I think part of that is because this episode is one of those episodes which is so welcome in Old Who, where there's not really a lot of downtime. That's a real problem for Old Who, because it's a serial, and serials tend to have a downtime part in every section of the serial, so that they can pad it out to be the length they want it to be. This one didn't really have that. Whenever there would normally be downtime, there tended to be some sort of political intrigue on one side or the other or both, which kept you engaged and kept you wanting to follow the characters. There were points where I didn't give a damn what the Doctor was up to. I was really interested to see what Davros and the Khalids were planning.
See, for me, this is one thing I do like about Doctor Who, is the fact that they have the serials, that there's, between 4 and infinite amounts of episodes concerning this one thing, whereas the New Who, it's basically you have one episode, it's over, one episode, it's over, one episode, it's over. So the continuity, while it's there, it's very disjointed. So they'll be like, oh, well, this happened, well, don't you remember it from my adventure? And it'll be something that happened as 9 happening at the very end of, the last season, where it's like, it was so briefly mentioned, how am I supposed to remember it? And I've seen every episode of 9 and every episode of 11. I'm working on 10. So for me, it's like, okay, I don't remember this one tiny reference from way back in the day. Whereas the serials, they made it multiple times, so it sticks more. And then I have care about the Doctor more because I see more of what he's going through. Whereas, the one-shots, you kind of see he has a little bit of trouble, but everything kind of ends up okay, and... Okay.
You can get invested in the Doctor. Obviously, I'm very invested in Matt Smith's Doctor. I really, really like Matt Smith's Doctor. Most people got hugely invested in David Tennant. I wasn't as invested in David Tennant as most people were. I was fully welcoming when he changed.
I got fully invested in the 9th Doctor, but again, you never forget your first Doctor, so I got hooked with the 9th Doctor. He's still New Who-wise my favorite. 10th Doctor, he has his moments for me, but for the most part, I'm still not a fan of Tennant. Matt Smith has made me cry more times than I care to admit. Oh my goodness. Especially, oh god, not Asylum of the Daleks. I was just reading something about Asylum of the Daleks. The Angels Take Manhattan. I will cry every time I watch that episode. Because the ending is so powerful. Same with, not with, Name of the Doctor. I cried the first time. Because he was so emotional, and then when I saw John Hurt, I kind of got a little less invested, because that's a total turn of events that doesn't quite make sense, but why not? And then, of course, I found out about the anniversary special and the Christmas special. I was like, okay, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, this is so sad, and blah, 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 blah. And then here's John Hurt. What?
I knew about John Hurt ahead of time, so that made it a little bit easier.
I did not.
But you're right. Getting
off topic.
Honestly, a lot more. Yeah. Well, I'm bringing it back. Honestly, I get a lot more screen time of the Doctor in the old serials per season than we do now, where you're getting a lot of times really, really limited number of episodes, maybe 8 or 9 episodes that have much of the Doctor in them in a season, and then it's so you're getting maybe 6 hours of Doctor, whereas old seasons, oh my god, 6 hours is one episode.
Literally. See the War Games.
Yes, God. Yeah. The War Games really is just sort of a moment where they're going, hey, Lord of the Rings, eat your heart out.
Mm-hmm.
We have a much more epic war.
That's every major war up to date.
And involves some pretty awesome eyewear.
Oh my, yes. And a monocle.
Now I really want to picture... Jesus.
And now Steve Jobs!
No, why?
Steve Jobs, I didn't know you were a Time Lord. Wait, if Steve Jobs is a Time Lord, does that mean he just regenerated?
No, Steve Jobs was the warlord.
Oh, that's right.
The War Chief is
the War Chief is the Time Lord. The Warlord is just the Warlord.
I don't know how you could possibly forget this. It's not like they're similar words at all.
It's not confusing at all.
Anyways, getting back to Tom Baker, who we're getting off topic on.
Yes.
Genesis, good episode. Other good episodes.
He knows more than I do.
I loved Cities of Death.
And he...
Gotta watch Cities of Death.
He really likes it from the way he really drew out the word loved.
It's so good. There's a python in it.
Oh, well.
You have to watch it because it's a bit... He's in there for 5 minutes. But it's John Cleese, God damn it, you gotta watch it.
Oh, that's right. John Cleese is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Cities of Death is probably the funniest episode of Doctor Who I've seen. And it's... Cities of Death doesn't sound like it should be very funny, but...
It's Doctor Who, he can make anything funny.
It's so much fun. You kind of have to watch it more than once, honestly. Or at least I did, before I was able to catch all of the little jokes and asides that the Doctor does during the action. Because it's set in Paris, and he's constantly talking about the art and the history of the town, even while in the midst of running through it for his life. So that's really good. Obviously, Talons of Wang Chiang is a good one. Trying to think of other. There's a lot of really good episodes. It's hard to even narrow down with Tom Baker. I'm just thinking those are just the two ones I saw most recently. If I watch others, there will be others that I'd say. Anything with Romana, anything with Leela. What's that? What's that episode? The Horror of Fang Rock is pretty fun. Terrible effects and some really cheesy acting and writing, but it's a fun episode. That one's kind of worth watching. It's kind of got a and then there were none feel if you're into Agatha Christie. And then there's always his final companion, Adric. So let's talk a little bit about Tom Baker's departure and our first taste, Janice and I's first taste of Adric.
Oh, I know how Adric dies.
Yes.
Anyways, Adric, he's this...
Spoilers for next episode.
He made me watch that one before we started the podcast, so I know.
Oh, I made you.
You suggested it. But Logopolis it's again, like you said, it's the ending of Tom Baker's time, and a lot of weird things are going on. There's the Watcher, the Master comes back, and they go to a place that's called Logopolis, which is basically the planet of the math geeks. They don't...
I represent that.
Yes, you do. But it's basically they don't speak, they communicate mathematically, which I'm not entirely sure how you do that.
They hum parts. They kind of explained it, and I had to watch it. I had to go back and rewatch it afterwards to go, what the hell were they doing? They are humming parts of an equation. Like they're intoning it like you do, the Om Mane Padme Om that they do in cathedrals and stuff.
Ah, yes.
It's each one of them, instead of, like you said, they don't ever talk to anybody. They just sort of sit there and do their math, and then they intone the answer to their part of the question, and like they're doing really big complex equations with multiple parts. Each person solves a part, and everybody working together solves the equation. And then there's the one guy that does talk to people, the guy who chats up the doctor. He takes what everybody's humming and he compiles it in his head and comes up with a solution based on what all of the lesser Logopolitans are saying.
Interesting fact about Logopolis, it is apparently like the cornerstone of the universe.
That's on their brochure.
Oh, I didn't get the brochure.
Come to Logopolis, cornerstone of the universe. Listen to us hum.
But basically, before we get to actual Logopolis, let's talk about your favorite person in the world.
Tegan?
Yes.
Oh no.
The loud, sarcastic, bossy, I demand to speak with the pilot, Tegan.
Yeah. And see, the weird thing is, I absolutely love Donna Noble, but I don't like Jovanka. Tegan, whose name I will not pronounce.
Tegan Jovanka.
I know, I can't. For some reason, I have a really bad time saying it. I'm sorry.
Donna comes off pushy and dominating, yes, but Tegan is also very shrill. She just comes off unpleasant.
Yeah, there's something about Tegan's kind of whiny, complainy voice.
Yes.
She kind of reminds me of like a teenage girl throwing a temper tantrum. Like, I want to go to the party.
Mm-hmm.
I told you before the show, to my endless shame, I've been watching a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer lately. And shut up. And she's Cordelia. That's who she is. She's the Cordelia character. She's the bitchy girl. She throws lots of fits.
Please don't ever do that again.
And I don't... You know who I'm imitating. You introduced me to the guy.
I know, but hearing you say it like that, it's creepier.
I thought it was fabulous.
Moving on.
But... she's very much a whiner, Whereas Donna just doesn't want to take this shit. She's just like, oi! No! We're not doing that. And that's not... Tegan just kind of throws a temper tantrum and hopes that will make things
Yes,
stop.
oh my god. I got sick of her, and I've only seen her in this story arc.
Yeah, and I've heard that I could be wrong. Now I don't wanna badmouth somebody out of turn. So I'm gonna say this: I could be wrong. This this rumor could be complete bullshit, and if it is, then I'm sure she's a wonderful person. But I've heard that she's actually really kind of snide to Doctor Who fans. Like the actress isn't a big fan. I've heard. Don't hold me to that, but that's what I've heard. Is that she's not a very nice person. But again, she could be really sweet. So, anyways, having heard that kind of colored me against her, and I would like to think it's not true because I'd like to have the opportunity to meet her and be like, oh, that's awesome, sign something. But
oh no, you're right.
No, you've heard the same thing?
No, it's right here.
What is?
Despite distancing herself from Doctor Who for many years and being vocal in her criticism of the program, Fielding, which Tegan was played by someone named Janet Fielding, returned to the role of Tegan for, an audio drama. So she did purposely try to get away from the show, and she did criticize it.
Yeah, and then that kind of led some credence to what I've heard, that she's not very nice to Doctor Who fans.
She's
sometimes.
like an early version of Katherine Heigl. Katherine Heigl, nobody will work with her now because she's that horrible. Yeah, moving on.
There's a couple actors. We could spend an entire episode of CineHell just talking about actors who are total dicks.
Like, what's his name, the most recent one? Bruce Willis.
Because
Willis, he didn't get, I believe it was $1 million per day of shooting.
You think that's... Have you heard the shit that Kevin Smith says about him?
I have not.
You need to watch Evening Harder, I think is the one. That Kevin Smith does these little chats, and he talks about the things he's done. He said Bruce Willis, he won't even talk about it. He's like, man, I don't want to say stuff because it could ruin his career. I'm like, wow. What could Bruce Willis have done to Kevin that Kevin could ruin his career? Because Kevin Smith's not that huge in Hollywood. He's huge among nerds, but he's not that huge in Hollywood, I didn't think.
No, he's more of an indie cult person, I believe.
Yeah. Well, he's big with nerds because, he owns his own comic book shop, so that's kind of... He wins, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there. It's so fun. But...
Jealous.
Anyways. It's a really cool little shop. Anyways. Off topic, back to Logopolis, which has no cool little shops. It's a very boring desert. It's basically... If you've seen it, and I'm sure you have, Star Wars Episode 1, it is the slave village.
I was about to make that reference.
Yeah,
and it's just a bunch of people sitting in little cubby holes doing math. Mm-hmm. It's very... of course...
So it's either Tatooine, or it's where we went to college.
And something I find interesting is, I know this because I rewatched the other day Left Turn from the 10th Doctor. Mm-hmm. And it made me think about the cloister bell, which you do not hear that often in Doctor Who.
You don't.
And they specify that the only time the cloister bell rings is if there's the most serious of serious? It's a word now. Is if there's like impending disaster or there's just a huge emergency about to happen, blah, blah, blah. And throughout the first 2 episodes, I want to say... off and on, you would hear the cloister bell.
Right. And they do establish what the cloister bell is and everything. Basically, this is kind of cool because you see the Doctor explaining it to Robin. I mean, Robin. Did I say Robin?
Yes, you did.
He's talking to Adric, and he explains to his little boy Wonder that... exactly what the cloister bell is and various things about the TARDIS, basically setting it up for new fans, which is a great little introduction. If you're not at all familiar with Doctor Who, Logopolis' first part, which covers what the chameleon circuit is, how you work the chameleon circuit, how the TARDIS works, shows some cool rooms in the TARDIS, like the garden.
One of my favorite scenes. It's so random, and it's just there. It's there's a TARDIS within the TARDIS, which is confusing them, and they're trying to figure everything out. And the Doctor steps outside, or he goes into another room, and he comes back, and Adric is on top of the second TARDIS. No explanation, no showing him get up there, he's just up there, and I found that hilarious. Just like it.
Boy wonder.
His super math skills got him up there.
It's Batman's young ward climbing again.
Yep.
Did I say Batman? I meant the Doctor. I'm sorry. There's a real Batman and Robin feel with the two of them.
There is, but it's
that
pretty
extends
cool.
To the. But there's also kind of. Remember that point where right after Tegan accidentally wanders into the TARDIS, and like an idiot decides to go deeper.
Yes.
She enters the TARDIS main room just after they've left, and then she wanders off. They come back out of the TARDIS that's parked inside the TARDIS. Just go with it. And they come out. They go outside just to see if they're inside of another TARDIS. And outside is is Tegan's car and a couple of cops, because some shit's gone down outside while everybody was in the TARDIS. So there's some cops there, and the first thing I thought was, those cops are going to have a lot of questions about what this man was doing in a police box with a little boy.
Yeah.
They don't ask, which makes me worried about the 70s or 80s.
I think it was 80s.
80s. Yeah, it makes me a little worried about it. Guys, your priorities are... This man was in a 2-foot by 2-foot box
With a boy.
with a young boy.
Well, they don't know that the boy's
who
in
now
there.
has a gold star. Yeah, he has a gold star.
Yes.
He did very good.
But I have to admit, Adric is quite crafty. He sees a bicycle next to a trash can, and realizing the Doctor is being arrested, and this could cause a lot of problems, he takes the bike and he goes a couple of feet away, and he basically lays down, puts the bike over himself, and starts screaming, "Help, help, I've fallen over, I think I've broken my ankle." So the cops run over like, "Oh, are you okay?" And he sees the Doctor's gotten free, didn't the Doctor have handcuffs on?
Something like that. But he's the Doctor. I mean, he can pull this shit. I don't know. Now, here's actually, I have a problem with this bit. First of all, that could easily have gone horribly awry if one cop had stayed with the Doctor.
But they're cops, and obviously on TV, they're completely inept.
Yes, well, on TV. I'm going to get arrested. So
I didn't say real cops. I would like to point out I said TV cops.
TV cops. But why didn't the Doctor just be like, "Hey, call Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart.
Yes, the Brigadier.
Dude owes me a favor. He'll explain.
Oh my.
And you might get a cool new job at UNIT. Seems to be happening for everybody. You could be one of the dudes that gets shot at by the aliens.
And don't worry, they're all terrible aims. You will never get hurt.
I don't know. There's a couple of times where UNIT just like... I don't know how they ever recruit anybody, because UNIT just drops like flies. But
if you were the lucky few to get tenure.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're a friend of the Doctor's, you're set for life. Nothing's gonna hurt you if you're a friend. If you're a buddy of the Doctor's in UNIT, you're fine. Because nobody the Doctor's a friend with in UNIT ever gets hurt.
Mm-mm.
But I just kind of felt that was unfair, because like, why didn't the Doctor why didn't he just pull his UNIT card? He's probably got UNIT ID. I know he does throughout a lot of.
Have you seen the man's pockets? They're like a black hole in there, so it's probably impossible to find anything.
You know what? My pockets are like that nowadays too. Big jackets, man.
Oh, it's like my
big
purse.
Jackets got big pockets.
I have found the strangest things in my purse. I'll find like pens and stuff I didn't even remember I had. But then again, my purse is pretty massive.
Yeah, completely off topic.
No,
Not talking about cinema at all, but I'm
comparing it to the Doctor's pockets, so it's okay.
No, this is me, just completely off topic. I don't know what the hell y'all are putting in your purses, but Tanya asked me to grab her purse, and I wrenched my arm. What the hell?
Oh,
What are you girls carrying?
Your
secret anvil collections?
I actually carry my homework in my purse.
Oh.
So at all times I'll have like a notebook, my notes, various worksheets of, whatever, and, a bunch of pens or pencils or highlighters, whatever I need. So mine's usually educational stuff that I need. Everyone else, I don't know.
No. Every girl I've ever held a purse for, it's just been like holding an anvil collection.
I know for other girls, same thing.
But that's only been once where the girl actually had a real anvil in her purse. Only once.
I know from experience looking at my friend, there's like a wallet, and then there's like a cell phone, and then there's like some sort of gaming system. Like some girls have an iPhone and an iPod. I don't know why. Or they'll...
Well, you can't listen to your iTunes on your iPhone. That'd be crazy.
The weirdest thing is I do have one friend, which every time I see her, she somehow always has candy in her purse.
Dude.
We'll be at the movies and she'll just reach over and suddenly she's got like a candy bar or she's got a thing of lollipops. I'm like, where does it all come from? How do you always have this stuff?
Because the purse is bigger on the inside.
Mine certainly is.
So, back to Doctor
Yes.
Who. And bigger pockets, which are bigger on the inside.
And the inept cops who let him go with Adric, and they go into the TARDIS.
They go back into the TARDIS, and they I guess they just discount the other TARDIS. Like they're like, somebody else parked a TARDIS here. Oh well.
The TARDIS keeps fading.
Let's get them unstuck.
At one point it's in the main room, at one point it's in the garden. It's never in a constant place. It just keeps moving around.
Yeah, but like the Doctor and Adric are really trying to figure it out, and they finally figure out somebody else parked another TARDIS here. 2 TARDISes parked in the same spot, so they're nesting inside of each other infinitely.
Yep.
Space math, go with it. So, but their solution is just like, oh well, okay, and unstick it. No question whose TARDIS it could be, or it just feels like somebody should have thought a little harder. Whenever you get a TARDIS, there's usually a Time Lord attached to it. But apparently the Doctor's not paying attention.
And then there's also the mysterious Watcher who kind of looks like a guy in Shakespearean outfits. It's just all white, no face.
Yeah, he's if you're a Terry Pratchett fan, it looks like Dr. Whiteface. He's got white outfit,
which that should be his name.
Oh, I love Dr. Whiteface. You gotta read Terry Pratchett. It's awesome. But he kind of does too. He's like this really angry looking face. Like he does not look like a happy camper. He looks kind of like a demon or something.
He's kind of creepy. He's very menacing.
It's not smooth white face either. It's like
a mask.
It's like this. It's like a Halloween mask painted white that he's wearing or something, or like paper mache. That's what I first thought was. He looks like he's covered in paper mache. So you got all these weird little threads that the Doctor's sort of like, well, we'll deal with this later. I've got to go to Logopolis.
Yes.
Because chameleon circuit's not working. The TARDIS's size is changing. And that's bad. It basically means that the police box pattern that he'd gotten for the TARDIS was breaking down. And he couldn't change the TARDIS to some other pattern, so he needs to renew this one. Or the TARDIS will just shrink infinitely. Or was it getting too big? I think it's getting too big, isn't it?
No, it shrank.
Okay.
Because at one point they're kind of like, there's a mini TARDIS, what do we do with it?
So,
it took like 4 people to carry that little tiny TARDIS.
Did that remind you of, did that make you think of when he shrank the monk's TARDIS?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
That was great.
It was a good little memory. Good times. Black and white. Good times.
Yes.
I wonder if that rocket launcher's still there.
Possibly.
So, they go to Logopolis, and of course, the other TARDIS that was parked in that spot follows by being nested kind of in the... It's weird. But it goes to Logopolis too. It parks, and its occupant gets out and starts going on a killing spree, because that's the master. He has fun killing.
I was about to say, we need to say who it is. Speaking of the master, Who else? Okay. We also have another companion, Nissa.
Yes, who I like. I like Nissa.
She's very
sleeves.
upbeat. She's very happy.
Yeah, I did not know she was an alien. I'd seen several episodes with her. It never came up.
Now the thing about Nissa, she's from Tremos.
Yeah, Tremis, I think.
It's her father was killed, and so she's basically trying to figure out, where her father is, what happened, blah blah blah. The Master killed her father and basically, I don't want to say took over his body, but took looks like her father now.
Yeah, I don't know if he took. I mean, he's shown that ability before and after, where the Master will occasionally take over bodies. So I'm not sure. He has the father's aspect. Let's put it that way.
So he tricks her into helping him with that terrible bracelet.
It's a fashion accessory.
No, it's just I'm not entirely sure how to explain it.
Yeah.
That one bracelet controlled her one arm, and if he used his little Nintendo remote, he could control that one arm, but it seemed like he was controlling her entire body, and it didn't make sense to me.
After a while, like, at first he got control of the whole body, and then after a while she started fighting it, I think.
Yes.
But yeah, like, there's basically, we're talking a lot more about this than we did about the previous episodes, I think. And that's because there's a lot of convoluted stuff happening.
And there's just, in general, a lot happening, because we've got the Master, we've got Tegan, we've got Nissa, we've got Adric.
We've got the Logopolins who are dying off, and as
turning
they
into
die
dolls.
Yeah, turning into dolls, which is never explained. I don't know. Fun with the Chucky curse.
Yes.
Which honestly I think would be an awesome crossover. The Master teams up with Chucky. I'd watch it.
Yeah.
So they I don't know really what's happening, and I studied astrophysics. I know the concepts that they're touting out because I remember them. And one of them is that entropy will eventually take over, and the universe will dissolve, will break down, because the universe will collapse in on itself. It's called the Big Crunch. In astrophysics, this is a point where the expansion of the universe, which everybody knows about, if you've taken high school science, you've probably heard this, that the universe is expanding. When it starts to contract, if it ever does, that's called the Big Crunch, and the ultimate endpoint would be when everything stops, the opposite of the Big Bang. And according to the Logopolitans, or Logopolins? I don't know.
I believe it's Logopolins.
We'll go with that because it's easier to say.
It sounds right.
According to Logopolins, they are the only thing keeping it from happening because their math is so complex and so nuanced and so intuitive. Like it needs a living creature to make the math work. They have such control with the math that their mathematical chants are the only thing keeping the universe from dissolving into dust. And so we see Nissa's planet and several others fade
destroy
away.
Yes, and she's I don't know, she didn't really show that much emotion.
Yeah, she got a little mad, but I think that she at that point the other losses she'd already suffered were too much. That there wasn't enough space for that much grief.
True. It's like we're out of time. We're out of time. No, look a little mad. Let's go.
Yeah. So I don't know. I had trouble with the whole concept, but what I did like was that the Master and the Doctor team up.
Yes. Even though the Master's probably going to screw him over and stab him in the back.
Yeah. He's not good people. I really like the Master's he's trying to weasel his way out of it the whole time, but at the same time, he's a Time Lord at heart, and so he's still trying to make sure that the universe stays whole.
Yes.
The Master wants power, and he wants to be able to accomplish various things and be in charge and be worshipped and recognized as better. But he doesn't actually want anything destroyed. So he's like, Well, we could do this. Let's do this, and then we'll solve everything, and then we'll fight. And then I will be master. But first, let's fix the world.
Yes.
I really like that. I like that he shows his Time Lordy side. He's kind of, going back to my Batman reference earlier, he's the Doctor's Selina, I think. Was that her name?
Catwoman?
Yeah.
Selena Kyle.
Yeah, he's the Doctor's Selena Kyle. I don't want to call him Catwoman because he's not a woman.
That's true. Yeah, I'm calling him Selena's a lot better.
It makes him feel pretty.
Moving on.
Everything in Doctor Who makes them feel pretty. I really, really like whenever the villain and the Doctor team up for a greater good, and it actually is a good. Like they're actually trying to accomplish something good. I like that. It's an interesting change of pace, and with the Master, it makes perfect sense because he's not the destroy the universe kind of villain like the Cybermen or the Daleks, where they're willing to destroy everything else so that they can be supreme. It's just the Master just wants to be recognized as superior.
Yeah.
And as long as you give him that, well, he'll work to your benefit as long as it doesn't hurt him. So I like that he was working with the Doctor. The random heel turn right at the end didn't make a lot of sense to me because the Master started to screw shit up before the solution had been made to save the universe.
Because, again, it was running long and they knew they wanted the Doctor to regenerate, so they're like, well, we need a reason to go ahead and kill the Doctor, so...
Yeah, so he causes a problem which makes the Doctor have to go outside on... We're cutting kind of to the end, so I'm not even going to explain how they get there. Watch the episode, it's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
He's climbing out on this big old telescope-majig, this radio telescope that's been abandoned by the humans that's on Earth. Because, of course, since Cardiff's there, Earth is the last place that dissolves. Because if it didn't, they wouldn't have anywhere to film. Cardiff's the only place on Earth that the BBC films, it feels like. So...
Well, it's the BBC. They have, 10 actors and 6 sets. Get used to it.
Yeah, and they're all in Cardiff.
Exactly.
So, they're back on Earth, of course. The last planet not to dissolve, or not to start dissolving. And the Doctor goes out on this old radio telescope or transmitter, and he does what he needs to do to save the universe, and then he loses his grip and falls.
And what I liked is he has flashbacks of both enemies he's encountered up until this point and his previous companions as he's falling. I liked that.
The moment has been prepared for. And then the Watcher.
Yes, we finally figure out what that's all about.
Were you surprised by the Watcher? By what he was?
A little bit. Not like, oh my god, I never would have seen that coming, but more like, yeah, I guess I should have seen that coming, so...
Yeah, it's one of those where you go, yeah, I could see that. It's not a what the twist moment. It's sort of a, yeah.
Well, that explains why the Doctor was so cool with him and not upset and not freaked out by her.
Yeah. So
it's just okay. Makes sense.
So the Watcher does what he needs to do. Watch the episode. I'm not going to spoil it. Watcher does what he needs to do, and the Doctor regenerates. And we have Davison. And then roll credits.
Yes. Basically, he sits up and that's it. So we gotta wait for the next one.
I don't remember what the name of the episode is, so...
I don't either.
But Logopolis, I've been saying it's a good episode. I think people should watch it. What do you
think?
It
is a good one, and I do also recommend that people watch it.
So go watch it. Go watch all of Tom Baker's stuff.
Yes, go to your local Netflix. Well, your local Netflix. Go to Netflix.
Go to your local Netflix. My local Netflix closed.
I'm sorry. But basically, yeah, go watch it. It's interesting, it's cool, it's fun.
Other episodes, like I said, City of Death, Talons, Robot, I think you should watch. Even though it's cheesy, I think it's worth watching because it's a pretty fun episode. Gives you an introduction to the Doctor and to Sarah Jane if you've never seen her before.
I like Sarah Jane.
Yeah, there's so many good episodes.
There's so many companions.
Yeah, this is the longest running Doctor. He has a lot of companions. Tom Baker as a whole, I'd say Sarah is one of the best. It's the number one fan favorite era, number one fan favorite Doctor, and there's a reason for that. He is an amazing actor to play the Doctor. He really comes off as not human. He comes off as something different, and that's all acting power. You know, he's not by nature a bizarrely alien person. He just is a really good actor. His reactions aren't right. They don't quite mesh with what a normal human would do, and so it makes him a very believable character as a Time Lord. Even among the Time Lords, though, he really stands out. There's a couple of times when he's chilling with the Time Lords on Gallifrey. Even in the goofy outfits that the Time Lords are wearing, he really stands out as somebody he's not the same. He's a very different person. Too human to be a Time Lord, too Time Lord to be a human.
It was still very good. Yeah. Because, I mean, Tom Baker, he's got that weird, offbeat, kind of wacky personality you expect all the Time Lords to have.
Well, all the Doctors to have. A lot of the Time Lords are stuffy bastards.
A lot of them just don't know what they're doing half the time, either.
This is true.
But he just comes off fun and playful, and I was kind of sad to see him go, but I was like, yeah, well, yeah, 6 more, you know.
Oh, hello, I'm the Doctor.
It's like we got 5, 6, I mean, yeah, we got a lot to go.
So, what we're going to do, speaking of a lot to go, what we're going to do is, this week is Tom Baker. We'll put that out, hopefully by tomorrow, which will be the 4th. I don't know if I'll have it out by then, but I'm going to try. Then, next week, we talk Davison.
Mm-hmm.
Week after that, Colin Baker.
And then Sylvester McCoy.
And then for our last one, we'll cover Sylvester McCoy and
McGann.
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 Because
I love McGann.
that's all. McGann's movie is
that's the only appearance.
That's his only appearance on screen to date, and it's also the only time or the only opportunity we'll have to see Sylvester McCoy's departure
which was
kind of the Seventh Doctor's death. Yeah, we've seen it.
Yeah.
And it's not. It does not do justice to my favorite Doctor in color. My absolute favorite Doctor is Troughton, but I really, really like McCoy. As far as the Doctors that are in color, he's my favorite.
Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah, and of course there's Ace. So I'm looking forward to that, just because I'm gonna be like, yes, Ace! I get an Ace episode. I have an excuse to watch more episodes where they blow shit up with rocket launchers.
Well, there's never a bad reason to blow shit up with rockets.
This is why I like Ace. Ace is my favorite companion. Because there's no other companion whose solution to everything, other than the Brigadier's solution to everything is, let's blow shit up. Maybe we might have to watch the episode where she meets the Brigadier.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Because that's awesome. There's like, Brigadier's like, Doctor, I think we should blow shit up. I think we should blow shit up too. Oh, good. We're in agreement then. That's also the Doctor who likes to get stuff blown up.
Oh, even better.
Ace, remember how I told you not to use that rocket launcher? Would you use it on that Dalek over there? So, but that's a few weeks off, and that is hopefully going to be on the same weekend. If we time it just right, that will be released on the same weekend that we watch the 50th, and maybe we'll do a twofer.
I hope so. Well, I'm not watching the 50th until Monday.
Right, but I mean, we might put out both podcasts together.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So, for now, thanks everyone for listening for about an hour. I think.
We're a little over.
Yeah. Sorry. I know these sometimes run a little long. Hopefully this one wasn't too long. We'll have to see after editing. Thank you, everyone. Go watch Tom Baker.
The Earth isn't my home, Sarah. I'm a Time Lord.
Oh, I know you're a Time Lord.
You don't understand the implications. I'm not a human being. I walk in eternity.
What's that supposed to mean?
It means I've lived for something like 750 years.
Oh, you'll soon be middle-aged.
Yes!